The Arabian sun beats down on a land where the horizon is endless, but water is nearly non-existent. Saudi Arabia is one of the only countries on Earth without a single natural river. Not one. In a place where summer temperatures soar past 43 degrees Celsius, 109 degrees Fahrenheit, the desert doesn't just challenge survival, it defines it. Rainfall? Rare and unpredictable. Some years, the sky refuses to open at all. Yet, despite these odds, a nation has risen from the sand, rich, ambitious, and determined to defy nature itself. And now, in the middle of this vast desert, Saudi Arabia is attempting something no other country has ever done: building a river where no river should exist. But this isn't a river carved by nature. This is a river forged by machines, carried through steel, and powered by one of humanity's most advanced technologies: desalination. It's an audacious plan. A colossal underground pipeline network designed to carry fresh water across the desert. A river of steel and saltless seawater. A lifeline buried beneath the sand. Why would a country take on such a feat? To answer that, we need to go back to the beginning of Saudi Arabia's relationship with water. Decades ago, Saudi Arabia wasn't thinking about artificial rivers. Back then, the kingdom was sitting on what seemed like an endless jackpot: fossil groundwater. This wasn't rainwater or streams or replenishing lakes. It was ancient water, locked beneath the desert for thousands of years. A hidden aquifer, preserved since a time when Arabia wasn't dry wasteland, but a green savanna. When engineers tapped into it, the results were miraculous. Farms bloomed in the desert. Factories whirred to life. Homes filled their tanks effortlessly. By the 1980s, Saudi Arabia was pumping so much of this fossil water that consumption tripled in less than 15 years. But miracles don't last forever. By 1995, a third of those underground reserves were gone. And unlike rivers or lakes, fossil groundwater doesn't come back. Once drained, it's gone forever. The warning signs came quickly. Fields that once thrived with wheat and barley turned brittle and cracked. Saudi's attempt to become a breadbasket collapsed. In 1994, the nation produced over 2 million tons of wheat. By 2016, production plummeted nearly 80%. The government ordered farms to cut back, to save what little water remained. The truth was undeniable. Saudi Arabia was running out of water. With the desert running dry, the kingdom looked to its coasts. Fortunately, Saudi Arabia isn't landlocked. It has long, strategic coastlines along both the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf. And that meant one thing: the sea could be turned into a well. Through desalination, salty seawater became drinkable fresh water. The process was expensive, energy-hungry, and complicated, but it worked. By the early 2000s, desalination plants were popping up along the coasts. Today, Saudi Arabia is the world's largest producer of desalinated water, operating over 40 massive plants. Together, they churn out more than 3 million cubic meters every single day, enough to fill more than 1 million Olympic swimming pools every year. But there was still one problem. Most Saudis don't live on the coast. Cities like Riyadh, Buraidah, and Ha'il sit hundreds of kilometers inland. To reach them, water would have to travel across the unforgiving desert. And so, a new idea emerged. Not just desalination plants by the sea, but a pipeline river beneath the desert. The project is unlike anything the world has seen. Picture this: a web of steel arteries stretching thousands of kilometers across Arabia. Pipes so wide, over 2 meters in diameter, that a grown adult could walk inside them. These pipelines will carry desalinated seawater from the Red Sea and the Arabian Gulf deep into the heart of the desert. Entirely underground, shielded from the punishing heat and evaporation losses. Engineers designed them to withstand scorching summers, sandstorms, and decades of pressure. Built with anti-corrosion alloys, each section is meant to last generations. Together, these pipelines form what Saudi Arabia calls its artificial river, not a flowing stream of nature, but a controlled, engineered lifeline, meant to do what rivers have done for civilizations for millennia: sustain life, build cities, and grow crops. When completed, it will be one of the longest desalinated water pipeline networks in human history. Of course, none of this would be possible without desalination. At its core, desalination is simple. Take seawater, remove the salt, leave fresh water behind. But in practice, it's one of the most complex and resource-intensive technologies on Earth. Saudi Arabia uses 2 main methods. 1. Membrane desalination, reverse osmosis. Imagine forcing seawater through a filter so fine that only water molecules can pass. The salt, minerals, and even microscopic bacteria get left behind. The result? Pure, clean water. It's efficient and increasingly cheaper thanks to new tech. 2. Thermal desalination. Here, seawater is boiled until it turns to vapor. The vapor rises, leaving salt behind, then condenses into fresh water. It's basically the water cycle, but sped up by massive machines. Both methods power Saudi's megaplants, like Rabi 3, one of the largest desalination facilities in the world, producing 600,000 cubic meters of fresh water every day, enough for nearly 1 million homes. Once purified, the water flows into the underground pipeline network, the artificial river, that snakes across the desert. This artificial river is more than an engineering project. It's a national survival strategy. Saudi Arabia is home to nearly 40 million people. With rainfall as low as 50 millimeters a year, every glass of water, every farmed tomato, every shower depends on desalination. More than 50% of Saudi's drinking water now comes from the sea. Without it, Riyadh would empty, crops would wither, and factories would grind to a halt. But with it, the future opens up. The artificial river is designed not only to supply homes and industries, but also to power one of Saudi Arabia's boldest visions, turning sections of the desert into farmland. Imagine patches of green where there was only sand. Wheat, vegetables, and fruit grown in controlled desert agriculture zones. For a nation that imports the majority of its food, this is more than pride. It's food security, economic diversification, and independence. The artificial river is the artery through which this dream flows. But this lifeline comes at a cost. Desalination is not a free miracle. It consumes enormous amounts of energy, much of it from oil. Saudi Arabia burns 1.5 million barrels of oil every single day just to power desalination. That's 15% of the country's production. And then there's the brine. For every liter of fresh water produced, desalination plants create a liter of toxic brine, a concentrated mix of salt and chemicals. If dumped carelessly into the sea, it sinks to the seabed, choking marine life and disrupting ecosystems. Scientists warn that desalination, if mismanaged, could poison the very waters it depends on. Saudi Arabia is trying to innovate, experimenting with solar desalination, better brine management, and carbon-cutting technologies. But the stakes remain high. The artificial river may solve one crisis while quietly creating another. This project doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia's sweeping national plan to diversify its economy away from oil. For decades, oil money fueled the kingdom's rise. It built skyscrapers, highways, and entire cities. But oil is unstable. Prices crash. The world is turning to renewables. The writing is on the wall. So Saudi Arabia is reimagining itself, not just as an oil empire, but as a hub of technology, agriculture, and sustainable living. The artificial river fits perfectly into that vision. It promises to secure water for megacities like Riyadh and futuristic projects like NEOM. It lays the foundation for new industries and supports a growing population. In essence, it is more than a pipeline. It is a statement of intent that even in the harshest desert, human innovation can bend the rules of survival. Still, the question lingers. Is this enough? Climate change is heating the Arabian Peninsula. Population growth adds millions of new mouths to feed and bodies to hydrate. And every day, fossil groundwater sinks lower, never to return. The artificial river is massive, bold, and historic. But it is also a race against time. Can technology stay ahead of depletion? Can renewable energy catch up before oil dependence makes desalination unsustainable? No one knows for sure. But for now, in the heart of a desert with no rivers, Saudi Arabia is proving that necessity is the mother of innovation. That even in the driest land on earth, humanity can carve a river from salt and steel. For thousands of years, civilizations have risen by the banks of rivers: the Nile, the Tigris, the Ganges. Rivers gave birth to agriculture, cities, and empires. Saudi Arabia never had that luxury, but with its artificial river, it is attempting to write a new chapter in the story of civilization. A chapter where rivers are no longer gifts of nature, but creations of human will. It's an engineering marvel, a gamble with the environment, a lifeline for millions, and perhaps a glimpse into a future where humanity builds its own rivers, wherever they're needed.